Today, I am joined by Kevin Wheeler, Director of the Future of Work Institute, a global think tank on the future of work, and co-author of the book Talent Acquisition Excellence that he wrote with me. Today, we will be talking about how to structure your TA department, what new functions you should be hiring, and very importantly, the future skills of recruitment leader and the future skills of recruitment practitioners. Enjoy the interview. Kevin, can you shortly describe what you think are the most important drivers of the change that talent acquisition is going through right now?
It's a entirely new decade of change in front of us, I think. I think the number one driver is clearly the impact that artificial intelligence is going to have on talent acquisition and HR itself. I think it's a game changer. It's probably as profound technology as electricity was. So I think maybe we underestimate the potential impact that that's going to have. But there's also some other factors that are really big deals for talent acquisition. One is just an aging population and a smaller skill pool than there was historically. 20, 30 years ago, there was an excess number of skilled people that you could tap into. Today, that's clearly not true anymore. So it's more and more apparent that TA is also going to have to partner with learning and development, and it's going to become a make-buy decision for many talent acquisition organizations. Do we develop people for the skills that we need, or do we continue to hunt furiously out there for the very few people that have those skills? So that's part of it. I think there's global issues as well. We can't really rely on our own local talent base for everything. We're going to have to expand our reach to a global audience, which means more remote work, finding people wherever they have the skills, and using them effectively, which means new techniques for hiring them and new techniques for managing them. So those are just a few of the highlights that I think are big changes for the talent acquisition.
All right. So how do you think that organizations should adapt to this?
I mean, number one, they should embrace AI and use it where it's effective. It's not a panacea. It's not going to replace recruiters, but it definitely can improve productivity. It can definitely speed up the recruiting process. It can make candidate engagement better. I think using chatbots and other tools. So, talent acquisition functions really need to get on board with this and find technology solutions that work, experiment with different tools until they find those that work for them in their organization. I think they also need to think about how they organize themselves. I think that our traditional way of hiring people, it's just, post and pray and search like crazy for people, is kind of a bygone technique, I guess you could say. I think we need to have better talent intelligence. We need to build more talent pools of people, have more knowledge about where people are with the skills that we need. So that means they're going to need to hire people with different skill sets than they have today. People that are good at building those talent pools. People that are good at communication. People that are good at marketing and branding, which are really critical to, I think, to attract people to your organization. So we've done a pretty poor job of all those things historically. It's been really largely an administrative function, and I think that has to change dramatically. And I think more and more we can leverage technology to do a lot of the routine and volume hiring. So rather than having recruiters, hiring, 50 people that are very similar in skills, let the technology do that or help do that and speed up the productivity of organizations. So I think there's a room for a lot of reorganization and change and just how we go about talent acquisition with a focus on technology and marketing and branding.
All right. So how would you organize the TA department right now? Is that most of them still have 360 recruiters, for example? How would you organize the department? What qualities, what departments within the department would you have?
Sure. Well, I mean, number one, you need to have a person or persons who are very savvy about technology and can help you make those difficult technology decisions. So the first thing I would do is to hire somebody who was a technology guru, an expert in that could advise me and and help me make decisions about the technology. Secondly, I would definitely hire a really competent marketing and communications person that was focused in that professionally, really good at that, that could really help me create a strong, positive brand for our company, for recruiting, not just rely on the corporate brand or on some half-baked, very amateurish marketing efforts that typically take place in recruiting. I think we need a campaign, really, a marketing campaign. So somebody or some people who can do that and focus on that. And I think we need more focus on analytics and understanding, what's going on, doing analysis of what works, what didn't work, what are the real skills that are successful in our organization versus the ones that we think are successful in our organization. So again, it's a combination of technology, of marketing, analytics. Those are the really three key areas that I would focus on. If I was going to reorganize, I'd have people good in each of those fields. And if I was a big company, it might be more than one person. Uh, they don't have to be necessarily full-time employees. The data analyst and the technology person could be a consultant that you hire on a part-time basis, but you need that expertise and you need that skill. I think recruiters should focus much more on the relationship building and the influencing side and let technology do more of the screening and assessment and even more of the sourcing. And again, I think a lot of the new sourcing tools are excellent at finding most people. You will need a few sourcers that can really help you find those really hard to find people, but that's a very small percentage of the total hires that most companies make. So it's really re-looking at the skills my current recruiters have, reassessing those skills, refocusing them or retraining them to do other things. And again, focusing on internal mobility and using recruiters to look inside the company for the talent that we have there. So that's really, really kind of a big shift away from just, a bunch of recruiters hunting for people outside all the time. It's more about building communities, about creating relationships, about influencing hiring managers, about knowing more about what we have inside our own company. It's a much more strategic and much less administrative set of roles that recruiters need to have.
Okay. And you said you would hire specialists on technology, on data, and you don't expect your recruiters to do that, right? It's not that every recruiter needs to be a data analyst. You need to have a data analyst in your team of recruiters and in the TA team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, good recruiting is about relationships. It's about communication. It's not about data analytics. Okay, so they're different skill sets, and I would it'd be very rare, I think, to have somebody who was a great communicator, influencer, and marketing person who was also a great analyst. If you can find one, that's great, but I don't think you're going to find many people like that. So the data analyst is a separate breed. It's a different skill set. And to be really good at it requires a lot of knowledge and training. So I would not expect that your average recruiter would be able to do that.
All right, perfect. So with everything that AI is doing, what do you think will be the most critical skill to have as a TA leader over the next 2 years?
Well, I think number one is a strategic view of the workforce and the needs that your company has. A high level, really solid knowledge of where are we going as a company? What are the skills that we are going to probably need in the future? And what are the skills, obviously, that we need right now? But more importantly, can I anticipate the skills that we're going to need? And by anticipating those skills, I can help direct the learning and development function to start developing people inside the company for those skills. And I can start looking for people outside that have those skills and building a community of those people that then I can tap into when the need arises. So I think it's really, to me, a matter of having just-in-time mindset around the supply chain, about really focusing on thinking about a supply chain of people. And to do that requires anticipation and forward thinking, not just reactionary thinking. Most recruiting today is very reactionary. When a rec comes, then I go look for the person. And many times I have no idea that rec is going to be coming, or I don't even know those skills are going to be needed. And it's a surprise. And then I have to scramble to figure out how am I going to find people with these skills, where it should not be that way. You should already have anticipated those skills for 99% of the time and already have people pre-vetted or pre-screened for those roles. So I think it's really more a matter of having that as a talent leader, having that strategic, high level, broad view of things and building a team that can do that around it. And it's also about the marketing, the things I talked about before, using technology effectively, building a marketing program that helps attract those people. But number one, and most importantly, is having that strategic mindset, that view of talent intelligence, understanding what your firm needs now and what it's going to need in the future.
All right, so that's for the TA leader. Last question, what are the most critical skills to have as a talent acquisition practitioner, as a recruiter right now?
Now,
From
I
Nexus
don't know that
Careers.
the word recruiter is even going to last much longer per se, the way we look at it today. I mean, if we look at the way a recruiter is today, they get a rec and they look for somebody to fill the rec. Okay. Basically, that's what they do. All right. I think technology can do a whole bunch of that for most of the jobs. Okay. What's the more challenging thing is, okay, the technology's recommended somebody. How do I engage that person? How do I communicate with that person? How do I answer their questions? How do I convince them that this is a good job for them, or how do I convince them it's not the right job for them, right? So it's really a matter of being able to have that relationship building and that communication skill. It's about talking to hiring managers and influencing them to hire people that are broader in their scope and thinking often than the hiring manager wants. Okay. Hiring managers just want to replace X with X, right? But maybe it's more important that they look a little bit more into the future, anticipate where they're going, and maybe influence them to think a little bit differently about who they hire or how they hire somebody. So I really think that a recruiter's role is much more about marketing, communication, relationship building, influencing. These are the key skills of recruiters of the future. It's not about how good a sourcer you are or how good an interviewer you are. I think those are, they're not critical skills anymore. I think technology can do a big chunk of that, right? But it's more about judgment, helping to make good decisions, influencing people. So a much more a broader, higher level set of skills, and skills that probably most recruiters today, certainly most average recruiters, don't really have a lot of these skills. I think most people find it a real challenge to influence hiring managers, to build credibility. I mean, how do you build credibility with a hiring manager if they almost never see you? And most recruiters are never seen by the hiring manager. They don't know who you are. So it's about building those relationships and creating that engagement that's so critical and missing today.
All right. Thank you very much for all the wisdom you've shared with us.